look at a couple different ways of playing the arpeggios here with the right hand. One would be with a pick, and so I'll go briefly into, again, exactly how to hold a pick. It needs to be on the side of your index finger, not on the tips of both fingers. So you've got it on the side of your index finger with your thumb going pretty much straight across it. Notice that my thumb is going perpendicular to the angle that the pick is going to be striking the string at, but my first finger is kind of pointing at a 45, about a 45-degree angle to that. So holding the pick very loosely, and when I'm picking out individual notes in this style of arpeggio picking, you need to keep an anchor down here, either with your fourth finger braced like this, or what I prefer is your finger kind of curled and using this knuckle, that point right there is kind of your anchor point, and that lets you kind of rock and rotate. Actually, when I get all the way down to the sixth string, I'm even kind of hanging on with my fingernail there. But as I get into the higher strings, I just sort of roll onto my knuckle. So the general pattern is going to be alternating downs and ups, 8 per measure. So if I start with the sixth string, it's going to be sixth, and then up on the fourth, down on the third, up on the second, down on the first, up on the second, down on the third, and up on the fourth. That would be an 8-note pattern. So we want to learn this song using this alternating picking pattern, not cross-picking pattern. Save that for other songs. And so every chord is going to consist of 8, or sometimes we might leave off the last one. We might just play 7 notes, something like this. The main thing I'm going to talk about, though, coming up in the lesson, is you can really vary the order that you play the strings in and change it any way you want. So you could do what I would call a straight up and down arpeggio, where I go up, meaning up from a low note to a high note. So I went from the lowest string to the highest string, skipping the fifth, and if I was playing a C chord, I would hit the fifth and then go right through the same strings. Whoops. Or you could mix up the order of the notes. Anyway, you kind of get the idea. That was sorry, I started fumbling because didn't have a plan as to what I was going to play. But the idea there is you've got 5 strings you can play on most chords. If the sixth string is in the bass, you don't want to play the fifth string. And if the fifth string is in the bass, you don't play the sixth string. Pretty simple. A D chord, though, if you're not using the F sharp in the bass, where we've got the sixth string in there, you need to mix up these 4 strings in a pattern of 8. Something like that. Or that. So as you get better at this song and more comfortable, feel free to mix up the order that you do in the arpeggios. Now, you can also play this whole thing using your fingers. If you're not as comfortable with a pick, this is a great song to use for just standard finger picking, where you now do not anchor a finger. When you're finger picking, you never keep a finger down here, because you want to be using these 3 fingers and your thumb with the top 3 fingers, or your first, second, and third fingers always situated on the top 3 strings. So my thumb's going to play any notes on the 6th, 5th, or 4th strings, and then my index finger would always play the 3rd string, my middle finger would always play the 2nd, and my ring finger would always play the 1st. So that same type of arpeggio on a G chord that I just did using the pick alternating down and up with my fingers looks like this. I go to the D with F sharp in the bass. It's the exact same pattern on my right hand. I go to the C chord, and now I'm going to hit the 5th string in the bass. 2 thumbs, and then if I go to D, my D chord pattern is going to start on the 4th string, because that's where the root is for D, and I might mix up the order of the fingers into any kind of random sequence, as long as I play 8 of them. Or again, we can leave off the one on the last and of 4 and just end with a quarter note, so we would just play 7. Now, when you play the lead, let me get my pick back. When we're playing the lead, it's really important, that you play the right notes. But the most important thing that I want to talk about here is, even when I pick out the melody here, my right hand is going to keep up this constant down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up motion in every measure. means a lot of those notes are on ups, and many of them were consecutive ups because they were played on the ands of beats rather than the downs, which would be happening on the beat. So it's really important. We'll talk a lot more about that when we get into the breaking down playing the melody section, that your hand has to stay moving down and up just as if you were doing the arpeggio. That motion is the same. You don't do this. You need to keep a regular time going here, and that's part of the drill in this lesson, is to learn to play the melody, always accounting for every eighth note in the measure, down on the beats and up on the ands. So that's what the right hand is doing in Wonderful Tonight.